All right, welcome to part two. We're going to keep going here. Remember, we're finding all real and imaginary solutions. So far, we haven't found any imaginaries yet, but they're bound to come here. So our first step, get everything on one side here. So 5x cubed minus 5x squared minus 12x, and all that equals 0. Okay. Now I realize I can take an x out of here, and so I'm going to be left with 5x squared minus 5x minus 12 equals 0. I know one of my roots is going to be 0. That's already kind of predetermined here. Now, I need factors of negative 60 that add up to negative 5. Okay, well, let's think of factors of negative 60. We got 1 and 60. 2 and 30, 3 and 20, 4 and 15, 5 and 12, 6 and 10. These are 7 apart and these are 4 apart. So I'm thinking we missed our opportunity. So we're going to have to turn to the quadratic formula. It's just not going to work out to factor it. So we got to turn to the quadratic formula. And hopefully you remember the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and then the part that everyone remembers, all over 2a. Okay, so we're just doing it for this part. We already have our x figured out. Okay, so just kind of set that aside for now. We know that this x, one of our zeros is 0. Okay, that's done. Now let's work with this part in the quadratic formula. Okay, so negative b, our b term is negative 5, so negative 5 plus or minus the square root of b squared, that's negative 5 squared, remember your parentheses, minus 4ac all over 2 times 5. Okay, now we just take it piece by piece. We have a positive 5 plus or minus the square root of positive 25 minus, let's see, 20 times 12. 2 times 12 is 24. And then you have a 0 on there, so 240. Now we have negative 20 times negative 12, so it's going to be positive 240 all over 10. Okay, let's keep working at that. 5 plus or minus the square root of, what is that, 265 all over 10. Okay, now 265, I'm doubtful that that's a nice square rootable number. It's not. Let's see if 25 goes into it. We're looking for perfect squares now. 25 does not. I don't think too many other numbers would go into it. So, give me just a second. I'm going to play around and see if we come up with anything. You play around too, and then we'll come back together. Alright, hopefully you played around just as much as I did. Just trying different numbers, trying different perfect squares, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 64, on and on and on. I forgot 49 in there, maybe, I don't know, whatever. Nothing worked, and so this is what I'm left with. So one of my zeros is 0, and then the other two are 5 plus or minus the square root of 265 over 10. So these were my 3, because my highest power is 3. So that's my I need 3 zeros, and there they are. All right, the last problem here. There's got to be, I'm guessing there's going to be an imaginary solution here because we haven't had one all lesson. My first step is that I can take out, oh, let's group. There's four terms. Let's group it. Okay. What can I take out of the first piece? I can take out a 4x cubed. And we're left with x plus 1. What can I take out of this piece? I can take out a 4x, and I'm also left with x plus 1. Okay. So right now I have 4x cubed plus 4x, and then x plus 1. And that equals 0. Now I can do a little bit more with here. The x plus 1, I know I'm done with that. That just gets to hang out now. But I have to deal with this 4x cubed plus 4x thing. I can take out a 4x, and I'm left with x squared plus 1. Ah, dang. If it was minus 1, I would be able to factor that even further. But as it stands, I can't do anything more. Okay, so then my last step, I need to set each piece equal to 0. This one's easy. 4x equals 0. 4 times what equals 0? 0. This one's easy. What number plus 1 equals 0? Negative 1. Okay, so far I have 2 of my zeros. How many do I need in total? 4. Okay, so now I need to set this equal to 0. X squared plus 1 equals 0. I'm going to subtract 1. Just solve for x with your algebra skills. So I get x squared equals negative 1. How do I get rid of a square? I square root. Always remember your plus or minus. Plus or minus the square root of negative 1. Uh-oh. What do we do when we have a negative inside? Remember, we take our imaginary out. The square root of negative 1 is I. And so we're left with plus or minus I, because that's the square root of negative 1. Okay. And so now we have 1 0, 2 zeros, 3 zeros, and 4 zeros. And so that's how many we needed. And we're done.